Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. It was a great week 3 of college football. We saw tons of thrillers and tons of upsets. I believe there were 6 teams in the top 25 that lost. But now it's time to start previewing week 4, which started last night with South Florida and Temple, but really is going to get things going tomorrow on Saturday the 23rd. So let's preview some of our big games that we've got and also take a look at our Heisman Watch. We'll start up here with the early game, Texas A&M versus Arkansas. Now, I know to a lot of people, unless you're an A&M or Arkansas fan, this is not a big game, but a lot of people are calling this the buyout bowl, the buyout battle, something like that, because Texas A&M's Kevin Sumlin and Arkansas's Brett Bielema are both on the hot seat this season. I believe Sumlin is more so than Bielema, but the loser of this game is going to be their seat's going to really be burning. A&M is 2-1. They blew that 34-point lead to UCLA and barely beat Lafayette and Nichols. They did beat Lafayette by 24 and Nichols by 10, but they really struggled in both of those. Arkansas had an unconvincing win over Florida A&M and then obviously got beat pretty bad against TCU at home, 28-7. So this game is the first conference game for both teams. This is going to be huge for both teams, but more importantly, the coaches in this one. If you look back at my videos, I picked Arkansas to win that. They're a slight favorite. I'm going to stick with Arkansas again. I think that A&M's defense, which is obviously their weakness in my opinion, hopefully Arkansas's offense can exploit that and put up some points. And if Arkansas's defense just steps it up a little bit, they'll be able to beat the Aggies for the first time in 5 years, I believe. They haven't beat A&M since they've joined the conference. Second game moves around 2:30. Number 16 TCU and number 6 Oklahoma State. This could be one of the best games of the day. TCU, a very good team, very good defensive team this season. They beat Arkansas on the road, took care of SMU last week despite a slow start. Oklahoma State, though, their offense is amazing, led by Mason Rudolph right here in our Heisman Watch, James Washington at wide receiver. They're looking really good. Another conference game for both these guys, one of their first conference games because Oklahoma State, they have won 3 games. They've started off 3-0, but they haven't really been against great teams. I think their toughest game was against Tulsa or Pittsburgh. TCU obviously has played tougher opponents. Their defense is really good, so I'm very curious to watch Mason Rudolph and Oklahoma State's dynamic offense face off against TCU's very, very good defense led by Gary Patterson, their head coach. I believe they have 10 starters back on defense, so they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm picking Oklahoma State in this one, like I did earlier in the summer. This is going to be a really big one. Could shape up how the Big 12 standings end up at the end of the season, depending on who wins this game. And then I think this is the one most people are looking forward to, not just in the SEC, but in the nation. I think game day may have gone here if they weren't in New York City, Times Square this Saturday. Mississippi State at Georgia. Mississippi State, we all know, beat LSU by 30 points, jumps into the rankings at number 17, led by Nick Fitzgerald. The defense looked great against a pretty poor LSU offense. Georgia, on the other hand, got that huge road win over Notre Dame in week 2. So with this one being at Georgia, I'm going to pick the Bulldogs in this one, the Georgia Bulldogs. In this one, between the hedges. I'm very excited to watch this one, though. See how Fromm, the Bulldogs quarterback, does against Fitzgerald. It'll be a really good quarterback battle there, but I think Georgia's defense in the end will get a key stop and end the Bulldogs' Mississippi State's run. Not to say Mississippi State's going to be out of the count, though, for the SEC this season. They're still going to be a very dangerous team because Nick Fitzgerald is really difficult to stop. And then this one is another game. I feel like I'm loading up on SEC games, and I'm not trying to. This one's just another one that really interests me. Kentucky hasn't beat Florida in 30 years. Let's just start with that. 30 straight losses for Kentucky against Florida. They've come close a few times. I think this season that streak ends. I predicted that back in the summer. Kentucky's offense, I really like him. I really like Steven Johnson and their running backs. They're going to be really good there. Florida had that thrilling win over Tennessee last week with Franks connecting on that 63-yard touchdown pass as time expired. But I'm picking Kentucky at home to upset the Gators. This is definitely going to be their best year to do that. If they can't win it this year, it could be a long time before the Wildcats finally get the Gators. And then the nightcap here, number 4 Penn State at Iowa. Iowa, a very dangerous place to play, as we all know. Penn State, number 4, trying to get into the playoff after they were snubbed last year, kind of missed out. I think Penn State with McSorley and Barkley will be able to get the job done against Iowa, who has struggled a little bit, struggled in the first half against North Texas, and barely beat Iowa State, who is still a decent football team, especially at home. But I think Penn State will get the win over Iowa. And these are just the games I'm interested in. There are tons of other ones. As I've said, Bama, Vanderbilt, USC, California, Notre Dame, Michigan State. Plenty of good games, exciting games that we can watch. this week. Week 4 is going to be a lot of fun, and a lot of teams do start conference play this season, so that's something to watch out for. Real quick, I'm going to go through our Heisman Watch here. I've addressed Mason Rudolph, the Oklahoma State quarterback. He's been phenomenal, and if he has a huge game against TCU's really good defense, expect his the rank in the Heisman's to go really high up. He's going to really jump, I think, if he has a big day like he has been against Pittsburgh and Tulsa and those kind of guys. I think he already has over 1,000 yards, so that's really impressive. Baker Mayfield, the Sooners played Baylor this week, a team that's really struggled. They're 0-3. If he can have a field day against the Bears defense, which I assume he will after the way the Bears have been playing, he's going to stay towards the top. Saquon Barkley had a big game against Georgia State last week, as we all expected. Connected a lot in the passing game. Caught a lot of passes, more so than he did rushes. If he has a big game against Iowa, he can also rise up in the ranks. This is where people are going to really be changing in the Heisman Watch once conference play starts. When you're playing the cupcake teams at the beginning or kind of some subpar teams, it looks great, but conference games are what matters. And for these three guys, especially, big performances against conference opponents will really help their case. Lamar Jackson, have a question mark by him. Some people think he's out of the Heisman race. He put in a good performance against Clemson, not his best. Louisville obviously got destroyed at home against the Tigers. A lot of people are saying after that performance, even though he racked up over 300 yards, they're saying he's out of the Heisman race. I disagree with that. But that's why I put a question mark there. We're going to keep an eye on him. I think they get a bounce-back game against Kent State, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully he can put up some big numbers there to stay in the race. Sam Darnold, the USC quarterback, had a decent game against Texas last week. This year they play California, another conference game for them. California is a team that's really surprised me lately, going 3-0. Even though I had them going 1-11, did not expect them to do so well. Sam Darnold could have a big game there. And then Nick Fitzgerald's my sleeper pick. I knew at the beginning of the season he was going to be the X factor for Mississippi State this season. Did not expect him to do so well against LSU, even though I predicted them to beat the Tigers. If Fitzgerald has a big day against Georgia, expect him to really jump in the Heisman ranks. Expect to hear his name a lot all over the ESPN channels, all over the Heisman talks, because if he has a big day against Georgia and leads the Bulldogs to a victory on the road, he could be a real Heisman contender. So keep an eye on them. Get ready for a very exciting Week 4. These are just a handful of games that I'm interested in. There are going to be tons of others, though, to get excited about. So make sure you watch all of them and get ready for a full day of college football tomorrow. And please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.